Good afternoon. Welcome to the Detroit Public Library's virtual class highlighting our Learning Express library resource. My name is Genevieve, and I'm the librarian at the Detroit Public Library. The past year has been a challenging one for students, their parents, and teachers. Students and parents may be looking for a way to catch up on or prepare for the new school year. Detroit Public Library's learning resources are a perfect answer to the question, how will I retain what I've learned and how can I supplement what I learn in virtual school classes? The Detroit Public Library has several online resources that provide e-learning modules in subjects that are important to elementary, middle, and high school students. We also have e-learning resources for college students and job seekers. Today, we're going to provide a short tutorial about the Learning Express Library education resources for middle and high school students. This class will focus on how to create an account and use the Learning Express Library, and we will explore ebooks, tutorials, and practice test modules. The session is going to be very brief. And that's because the Learning Express Library is very user-friendly and it's very easy to follow. I'm going to be sharing my screen with you. I am now sharing the Detroit Public Library's homepage with you and doing a live demonstration of how to navigate through the pages, just so that you're familiar with it when you go in. It won't be scary when you log in and start the process. There are also tutorials on how to use the databases on the site. They're accessible after you've created an account. If you have a Detroit Public Library card, all of this and more is accessible to you. So at this point, we are right on the Detroit Public Library webpage. And as you can see right here in the address bar, I'll move my cursor there. It is www.detroitpubliclibrary.org. And on this page, as we scroll down, you can see all the different things that we have available. We have many different classes available, resources, options for children, and we have some highlighted events. At this point, though, to get to the educational resources, one of which we're talking about today, we're going to go here to the Research tab. And when you go to that, it expands out and you see general subject areas. We have resources in all of these different subject areas. The learning modules are going to be clustered under either education or careers and employment. We're going to be going to careers and employment right now because that's where the Learning Express Library is. I'm going to click on that. Here it is. And as you can see, under here, we have three different modules: Learning Express Library, LinkedIn Learning, and Vocational Studies Premier. So we're going to access the Learning Express Library. And it comes up with a listing of all the different centers that are available. And as you can see, they address all different groups of learners. You have career preparation, college tests and admissions, a job and career accelerator. That's where you can even do resumes. The school center, things specifically geared for adult core skills or computer skills. And we even have a Spanish language module learning center as well. So for today's demonstration, we're going to go to the school center. I'm going to click on that. And it expands out into elementary, middle, and high school. I will tell you that the school center begins at 4th grade. And then goes all the way through high school. We do have learning resources for earlier childhood development, and those are available on the website also, but not in the Learning Express Library. So just for the purposes of the demonstration, let's go to the high school center. And this is the next screen that we come up with. It's divided into 3 sections: elementary, middle, and high. We look at elementary. These are the modules available. These are the learning modules available in elementary. Middle school, those are the ones available. You can see where they have specialized high school entrance exam prep tests. If you're a student or you are want to take a test for admittance to a high school that requires these exams, those are on here to practice with. And then high school. And as you can see, you have math studies, social studies, technology, English language arts, science skills, including biology, chemistry, and earth science. There's even logic and reasoning practice. You can see where almost every subject that you would be taking in high school or middle school, if you were in the middle school section, is going to have some kind of learning module that could be useful to you. So at this point, before we start looking at the different modules, let's look and see, how do we create an account? How do we actually use these? So we're going to go right over here. We're going to log out. And then, because I had signed in earlier, and you'll see right up here at the top, it says sign in register. We're going to click on that. And then the sign in page shows up. I have created a demo account already called Sarah Student, but you as a new user won't have that. So I'm going to show you what those screens look like. You can go right over here to new user, register. And this is the screen that shows up. It's very easy to create an account. As a new user, this is probably going to show Michigan eLibrary instead of Detroit Public Library. So it would be, this is what you would show. It would say Michigan eLibrary, and then you would say your institution wasn't listed. It would give you this new user registration. And this is where you would put your library card. It doesn't matter if you have books checked out or books that are overdue. None of that matters. If you have a valid library card, that will work here. You just put in your library card and you can create an account. And then just going back to this one more time, you will also get this screen, and you only have to fill out 3 questions. Your first name, a confirmed email address where they can have an email address for you, and you create a password. That's all that's necessary. It's a library card and then 3 questions: first name, email, and a password. And then you can register for an account. Now I'm already registered with my demo account, so we'll go back to that. And then I'm going to log in so that we can actually explore the centers and you can see what they look like. So the first thing that's going to show up, and you'll get this after you create an account, is you're going to find a dashboard called My Center. And in My Center, it tells you everything that you have completed, as well as whatever modules might be in process at the time that you're working on right now. So you can then go back to programs that you're in the middle of. You can delete them. But this is like in a snapshot. Where are you and what's your progress? So that's what a dashboard looks like. Let's go to the different centers now. On the centers, these are the same listings that were in those little boxes that I showed you at the very beginning. So as we scroll down, you can see all the different modules within each center. So under career preparation, for instance, you have all of these different workplace exams. A job and career accelerator, where you can build a resume, you can prepare for an interview, explore different occupations. the High School Equivalency Center. This is where people that would be working on a GED might go, to prepare for that test and so that they can pass that exam. College admissions tests. This is in high school. If you want to go to college and you need to take an SAT or an ACT, you can prepare here. They've got copies of those old tests on here that you can prepare for. And then things for college students. If you are in college, a graduate school admission test, college placement exams, for instance. Say you want to place out of a class when you start college. You don't need to take that beginning English class or that required math course. This would help you prepare to test out of those classes if you want to do that. And then there's other centers on here as well. We're going to go to the school center, which is what the demo is going to be about today. And you can certainly explore these other ones at your leisure. In the school center, we're going to click on high school. And this is what we find. These are all of the different, as we looked earlier, you've got math, English, science, social studies, technology, logic and reasoning. And as we see here, you have ebooks, tutorials, and then practices that are available. And those are the same in every one of these sections. So the purpose of this is to just show you what's available. So let's just look at what the ebooks are. What does that look like when we look at an ebook on Learning Express Library? The ebooks under the math quotient in high school, you have 18 different books available. And these are basically textbooks and workbooks that would be the type of thing that you would either be issued in school or that you could take out of a library. And all you need to do here is download that ebook, then it's on your computer or your tablet, and then it's in your dashboard, and then you can go back to it anytime. Now, the textbooks here are not going to be the same textbooks that you're going to have in your individual classroom, but they're wonderful to use as supplementary materials to coordinate with those studies. Or if you want to teach yourself something or work ahead in preparation for the next class that you're going to be taking. As we go down the list, you can see some of the titles: calculus questions, geometry questions, and then also workbooks such as Algebra Success in 20 minutes a day. These are things, these centers are geared so that you can actually teach yourself the material, and then they're wonderful to supplement material, to catch up, to brush up, and to prepare for next steps as you go along your academic career. So all that's needed here is you download it, and there you've got the whole book. So let's go back, see something else. We're going to go back to the school center, to high school. And then in this case, we're going to look at a tutorial. What's the difference between a tutorial and an ebook? So we're going to bring up a tutorial. In this case, you've got 7 different tutorials that are here: basic math, high school algebra, geometry, statistics and probability, number and quantity tutorial. So let's take a look at one, just so that you can see what it looks like. And here's what the tutorials look like. They're basically mini textbooks, mini lessons. Here's a course introduction, and then you have the different units that are covered in this basic math tutorial. I'm going to direct your attention here to the pre-test and the post-test. What the tutorials allow you to do, and what the practice test modules also allow you to do, is to test yourself so that you can really determine where you need the help. The pre-test here, if you were to take the pre-test, you would be able to then focus on, at the end of it, you would be able to see Where do you really need to concentrate your studies? Maybe you remember part of the algebra, but not all of it. Where do you really need to focus your studies? And that's where the pretest and those practice tests can be very useful, because after you take them and after you see what kind of scoring you do on them, then you can go back to the ebooks, to the tutorials, work through those units and get yourself up to speed. In the tutorial here, I'm just going to expand a couple of these line items so that you can see what it all looks like. Here we have the comprehensive basic math tutorial. In Unit 1, it's an introduction to real numbers and basic operations. So let's click on that. Underneath there, then you have 3 lessons, a summary, and then a quiz at the end. Let's click on one of the lessons. Then within the lesson, you can see what the chapters are within each lesson. And as you go, lesson 2, a review of fractions. These are the different chapters within that: multiplying, dividing, converting, and then a summary, and then a short quiz at the end. So that's what a tutorial looks like. Mini textbooks taking you through lesson by lesson and then chapter by chapter with short quizzes that you can teach yourself or supplement whatever it is you're working on in class. Last thing we're going to take a look at here is the testing itself. And we're going to go back to the school center. Go back to the school center, and everything that says practice next to it is basically an online test. Now, the thing to remember here is that you do not have to complete any of these things in one sitting. You can take your time. You can spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever time you have to devote to this. It'll work with, and it'll save your work so that then you can go back to it. You can mimic timed test environments so that, if you get nervous before taking one of these exams, before you take a school exam or an entrance exam of some type, you can time yourself and kind of get the feel for it, or you can just work your way through at your convenience. So let's pick a different center just so that we can take a look at what the practice modules look like. And we'll just see it in a different format. So let's look at the vocabulary and spelling skills practice under the English language arts. So this is the kind of a screen that comes up when you're in one of the practice modules. And here we have 2 different practices that you could take in this unit, spelling and vocabulary for high school. And you have a choice. You can take this test in an online form, or you could even print it and then take it on paper. So it's flexible in that way to mimic whatever the school environment is that you're working in. So let's look at it in the online environment. And in this case, it gives you an overview of what is this test going to be about. You can see about the test, gives you a description. What are you going to be doing? How do you take the test? How do you change your answers? How do you score the test? How do you view the answers? It explains all that. And then over here on the right-hand side, it gives you the details. It tells you how many questions are in the exam, and it tells you what the typical time is it takes to actually take that full 50-question exam. Now, as I said, I can't say this enough. You don't have to do this all in one sitting. you can do this in 10 minutes. Whatever time you have to devote to this, it will save your work in your dashboard so that then you can go back to it again. It also gives you an option of 2 different ways of taking the test. You can take it in a practice mode, which is your typical test environment, where you'd be in a classroom or sitting at a computer, and a proctor would be walking around, or your teacher would be walking around. You look at the question, you answer it, move on to the next question. The other thing you could do, excuse me, is take it in a learner mode. And in the learner mode, it gives you an explanation of the correct answer. So we all know what it's like to take an exam in a practice mode with a teacher looking over your shoulder. So let's do this in a learner mode, just so that you can see what it looks like. So I've clicked it. It's taking a minute to load. So here's the screen when we're looking at, this is what the exam looks like. So choose the word that means the same or nearly the same as the underlined word, verify your account. So we're going to pick the word that we think is probably the right one. We're in learner mode, remember. So verify, that probably means confirm. So I'm going to click it. And then it gives you an option here to check your answer. So let's check it. And here is the difference between the learner mode. It tells you that it is a correct answer, and then it also tells you why it's correct. It won't tell you why the others are wrong, but it will tell you why the answer is correct. So let's go down to the next question, and we're going to pick the wrong answer on purpose and see what it looks like when we pick the wrong answer. Choose the word that means the same or nearly the same as the underlined word, grotesque scar. So in looking at these choices, extreme, frenzied, hideous, typical, I think typical is probably the wrong answer. We're going to choose that. And then we're going to check it, see what it tells us. It tells us that it's incorrect, and then it tells us which answer is correct. So that is the difference between just the practice mode and the learner mode. In the learner mode, you can check your answers as you go along. You can see if they're right or wrong, and inform yourself as you're taking the rest of the test. So this is a very quick tutorial. It's only about 20 minutes long, and we have learned how to create an account. We've learned what an ebook looks like. We've learned what a tutorial looks like. And we've learned what the practice exams look like in the Learning Express library. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. I hope that you will find it useful in supplementing any studies that you're currently engaged with, and in learning about things to prepare you for other classes that you'll be taking in the future. Please explore our website at detroitpubliclibrary.org for more events and information about our other resources, our other online learning resources. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining us today.